August 28, 2024. Matthew Farwell, a former police officer, is arrested for the murder of Sandra Birchmore. Farwell had been grooming Sandra since she was 12 years old and began sexually abusing her when she was 15. On August 29th, Aidan Carney took a break from intimidating witnesses in the Reed case to comment on the situation. This is how he discussed a childhood SA victim who lost her life at the hands of her abuser with his audience.
Welcome aboard, guys, to the sex cult, as we call it here. I mean, Sandra Birchmore has agency. Like, I'm not going to act like, like a lot of people are like, well, she, like she was, nothing's like, Sandra Birchmore did choose to do these things, but she did have sex with these guys, right? They wanted to fuck her because they knew she was damaged. Because they knew that, like, because she's damaged mentally, she's easier. There's no challenge there.
I must interject and point out that Carney is placing a lot of blame squarely at the victim's feet. He points out her agency and claims she chose to do these things being sexual abuse, starting when she was just 15 years old. He then refers to her as damaged, essentially stating that she was victimized because of a deep personal defect and damage. In reality, the blame lies only with her abuser. His personal defect caused Sandra to be victimized, and the only damaged one is the adult who chose to prey upon a teenage girl. He was at all times the adult, and as a police officer and instructor, in a position of power and trust. Carney does not appear to grasp this, and seems to sympathize with Farwell multiple times throughout his video, despite Farwell being a sex offender indicted for murdering his victim. He goes so far as to voice his suspicions that Sandra may have been setting Farwell up to get busted for rape, completely glossing over the fact that Farwell did, in fact, rape her.
Oh my God. That's not a date I'll ever forget. This is just like, the sound, like the fact that she said it like that, it almost sounds like she's setting him up. Like, it almost sounds like she's, it was April. It's not a day I'll ever forget. It was April 10th, 2013. It's like, I'd be like, are you wearing a wire? Like, that's suspicious. Like, it's not a date I'll forever forget. April 10th, 2013. She like puts it in writing. And this is the other thing that makes it sound like, bro, are you wearing a wire? Like, I was scared to say no. It's just like, that's the exact type of thing that you'd write and put in writing on the record if you wanted to get him busted for rape. It's just like, and this guy doesn't pick up on it.
It is at this point that Carney begins to dismiss pedophiles as mentally ill, while also explaining that in his opinion, having sexual thoughts about children is permissible, but acting on it is not. It sounds quite a bit like a man who may someday be exposed for having such thoughts, perhaps via child pornography in his devices, and wants to minimize the thoughts versus action.
If people have thoughts in their heads like that, about like getting turned on by kids, and that's what a 14-year-old is, they're a kid, right? They have a disease, in my opinion. Like, they have mental problem. And it's not a crime to have a mental problem. I have these thoughts in my head. I think 14-year-olds are hot. Like, it turns me on. Like, just does it for me, right? The problem is when you fucking act on it. Like that, and that's what Farwell's into this shit, and he acts on it. It's just like a magnet, you know what I mean? Like, so I guess eventually, like, you can suppress these thoughts in your head about what you want and try to pretend like you want something else. But eventually you're going to suck a dick. Like, it's science. That's just how it works, right? But like, bro, I have these fucking thoughts in my head, and I'm worried I might act on it. And I don't want to do that, because then I'm going to go to jail. So how do I fix this shit? Like, fix it.
Carney is preoccupied only with the threat of jail that comes with preying upon a child, and not the aversion to harming children. He speaks only of the consequences to the offender, never about the harm to the victim. He then continues on to characterize Farwell's proclivity for harming children as some type of kink, and speculates that perhaps Farwell's wife simply did not meet his sexual desires, forcing him to prey upon a child before positing that perhaps the abused and ultimately murdered Sandra had a rape fantasy, as he claims many women do.
That's all Sandra Birchmore is to him. She gives him what he wants, and what he wants is to live out his fantasies of fucking kids and just being nasty, right? Because he's a nasty guy, and his wife, I don't know what their sex life is like, but maybe she's just not nasty, and this guy's into nasty shit, filthy shit. No judgment. I can't, like some women, Birchmore is an adult when she writes these things. There's plenty of women out there who are adults who are into rape fantasies, okay? Like some people like a gun pointed at their head during sex. For all we know, Sandra Birchmore's, they might have this fantasy with rape, right? Because Sandra Birchmore is a damaged girl. So yeah, this is a weird topic, I know. It's a weird thing to talk about, but you guys know what I'm talking about, right? There's some people out there, and I bet you one person, there's probably a couple of you out there watching this right now. You're like, this is a sex cult, okay? So we could talk about these things here. If it is, no judgment.
It is notable that a police report has been released indicating that Carney was suspected of raping an intoxicated and vulnerable woman who ultimately refused to cooperate with authorities and go through with charges.
She was going to tell Farwell's wife that he had been having sex with her for nearly 10 years. I wonder what made her decide to do that then. Sandra Birchmore was a side piece, right? That's a long time for a side piece, like a long time.
Carney continues his characterization of Sandra as a sexual object, further accusing her of blackmail and painting Farwell as some sort of hapless victim, before suggesting that the solution to all of Farwell's problems could have been a vasectomy, instead of just refraining from the sexual abuse of children. Carney compares his own experiences to Farwell's and ultimately launches into a prolonged graphic description of how he would hypothetically ejaculate inside of Sandra were he in Farwell's position.
She blackmailed him into impregnating her. She blackmailed him into impregnating her. She basically told him, bro, if you don't throw a hot one in me, raw dog, and give me that baby I want, because your wife has 3, I should have at least 1, because that's, and if you don't do that, I'm gonna rat on you and you're going to jail for statutory rape. And I've memorialized all of these conversations just in case, because you're a fucking idiot and you didn't see that one coming. And so now she's got him by the balls. Like, that's fucking crazy. So first of all, bro, if you were smart, okay, you would just get a vasectomy. Problem solved. And she wouldn't even know. You just got a vasectomy. I wish I could, that was the first thing I thought of, during I don't want to relive this and all, but I'm like, what if I had a vasectomy and I hadn't told anyone? Psych! Why didn't this guy just get a vasectomy? He's got 3 kids already. He's like, oh, I tried. Every time she doesn't get pregnant. Oh, what do you want me to do? I try. I can come harder if you want. I can come harder. I can not jerk off for 5 days. And then just save you up a big one, the mother load. Hurricane Katrina up in this bitch. But, I guess that's what why didn't he just get a vasectomy? I know it's painful, but wouldn't that have solved all of his problems? Bro, Farwell is just dude, he knows how crazy this is, but he stuck his dick in it. It's just dude, you knew she was damaged, and what did you think was going to happen? You had years to walk away from this. He kind of had no choice. He had to give her the blackmail, baby. That was the only way he wasn't going to jail. He had to do it, right? Or just get a vasectomy, because that's not in the contract. If you try to impregnate her and it doesn't work, that's not. He could be like, it's not my fault. I have 3 kids. We know my boys can swim. Maybe it's a you problem.
It is my humble opinion that only a fellow paedophile could be this apologetic about a sex offender who murdered his victim. And coloured by that opinion, I do wonder, is Aidan Carney a paedophile?